Hello and welcome to another 211 Steering Committee webinar hosted by AIRS. My name is Sarah Kyle and I'm the co-chair of the National 211 Steering Committee and the co-chair of the Steering Committee's Network Engagement Work Group. It's exciting to have you all here. One thing that we have a goal of is to make sure that we're responding to the needs of 211s across the continent. And we've heard your concerns about accreditation, and that's why we're here today. I'll be honest, accreditation can sometimes feel overwhelming. And when I started this work, it felt like just another to-do that I didn't have time for. But the process has helped my center, and I think our panel will help us discover some ins and outs that will really lead the way towards accreditation, or at least your path of deciding on accreditation. As always, a huge thanks to the amazing Kiara Cameron Wood, the AIRS Director of Training and Education. Without Kiara and the whole AIRS team, these webinars wouldn't be possible. We would just be kind of waving each other from across the continent. So thank you, Kiara. Also from AIRS today, we have Amy Lindsley, who is their Director of Accreditation, and she's monitoring the chat. So if you have questions, please make sure to throw them in there because we have someone who's quite literally the expert here. Also today, we're joined by the world's best amateur cookie baker and all-around 211 hero, our bow-tied friend, United Way Worldwide's Director of Network Operations and Performance. Hey, Josh. Josh Pedersen. If you stick around, you'll be part of the sneak premiere of some of the National Ad Campaign's 211 stuff. And I have to tell you, I have been just waiting on pins and needles for all this, and it's so exciting. So thank you so much, Josh, for coming today and sharing with us. A big thanks to Jenny Pollock. So Jenny is just an amazing friend and a colleague from Michigan 211, who is known to all as the living and breathing superwoman. Also on the panel today is Molly Black, who in the short time I've known her has just been an incredible leader, especially in network engagement, which she sits on that work group with me. I would please ask you to spend some time reading full bios of our speakers on the same site where you access this webinar. Unfortunately, Bob couldn't attend with us today, but as we were planning for this, Molly reminded all of us that it's been a year and a half of this stuff, and we are all used to adapting quickly. Thank you, Molly. Without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Jenny and Molly. Again, ladies, thank you so much for joining us, and it's all you.
Thank you, Sarah. We're so excited. I'm so excited to be part of this webinar and to talk accreditation. So what we're here today to talk about is accreditation and kind of why make the journey. As Sarah mentioned, there is a lot to accreditation, but it's meant to be feasible, not burdensome, but by nature rigorous. So let's walk through accreditation and some ways that we can be prepared. Kira, can you move to the next slide? First up, we want to get a sense of who's with us. So there's two polls, I believe, Kira, if you can launch them to help us understand the type of INR provider that's in the room with us and kind of your size too, right, to just kind of better gauge who's participating.
Perfect. Okay, it only takes a click. We're going to give everybody, we'll run them for about 30 seconds or so. And here is the first question. Which of the following best describes the type of INR that your organization primarily delivers? Are you a 211, aging, disabilities, health issues, comprehensive, INR non-211, military blended INR, regular, other INR, blended crisis, 211, other specialized. So we have about 83% of the voters. Let's give you guys just about 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. And I'll end that and share the results. So mostly 211s, about 74%, but we have a healthy representation of aging, disabilities, health issues, other comprehensive, and blended. And now for the second question that Jenny mentioned about FTEs, we just want to get a sense of how big your organizations are. So which of the following best expresses the staffing size of your INR program? We do have a variety of sizes throughout the network, small groups that cover that 1 to 5 up to large, between the 51 and 99. And we do have a few that are over that 100. But they may not be here today because they are usually already accredited. All right, so we're almost there. Only 76%. I think we can do a little bit better than that. Let's give you guys about 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'll take 90%. I'm happy with that. So here's the distribution. So about 29% on the 1 to 5, 11% on the 6 to 10. 11 to 20 is 32%, and then that 21 to 30, 16, 5% on the 31 to 50, 51 to 99 is a 5%, and then more than 100, we have 3%. All right, Jenny.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for putting your responses in. We can go on to the next slide. So what we're here to talk about today, we wanted to give just kind of a baseline of Accreditation 101, and just kind of flip the order a little bit to talk about the benefits of accreditation to your program, to the INR service provider, and then what we've heard from the value of the INR program's accreditation to its partners, its vendors, and then Molly's going to take us through readiness and kind of getting ourselves, our staff, and our program prepared for accreditation. Next slide. Okay, here's a quick overview of accreditation. The award is good, is valid for 5 years, and will encourage applicants or encourage accredited organizations to renew about 12 months before their accreditation. My goodness, let me restart. Will encourage those that are accredited to renew their accreditation 18 months prior to when their accreditation will expire. The accreditation process itself is made up of 5 elements. I think most people think about the consultative review. That's when we're asking you to share all your policies and procedures and answer the questions that the accreditation reviewers are going to use to kind of assess that accreditation against standards. And the online community survey, that is new in the last last version of accreditation, but it's surveying organizations from your database and kind of sharing that feedback with you as the perception of your program within the community that you serve. The next section is the remote database review. This is probably also on your radar if you know anything about accreditation, but a large part is looking at the information that we use to provide to our communities, to our callers and those we serve in accordance with our policies. Next, a secret shopper tests the INR, the call itself. So there's 10 calls that are made within your business hours to assess the call experience, again, against assessment criteria that's provided within the manual. Finally, to wrap everything up, is an on-site review. It's been, our on-site reviews were part of accreditation for a while, took a pause just as we were evaluating, and then kind of brought back in this last revision to accreditation process. Since the pandemic, they've been performed remotely, but it is a way for AIRS to kind of validate the consultative materials, right? Identify promising and best practices, and really a time for the organization to show off your INR program. I mentioned at the beginning that accreditation is really designed to be achievable for all INR programs of all sizes. It's helpful for us to have an idea of the size of those on the call and and the types of INR, but it's designed for every type of program. Next slide. So I've mentioned a couple times that this iteration, right, of accreditation criteria, just as AIRS works to keep the standards up to date and relevant with the field, accreditation follows the same mission, right? So we do undergo some manual changes to maintain that relevancy, adapt to trends, incorporate changes within the field, and that revision process may look different depending on the time and effort to implement those changes. Some examples, anytime that AIR standards are reviewed, we want to also make sure that those are incorporated within the accreditation manual. And we're actually undergoing a review right now as the standards were revised. There's also, different efficiencies that we can put into the process. Some examples were the community surveys from the last revision of the standards, the revision of the criteria. We've also formed some partnerships with Contact USA for those that may be accredited for their crisis work through Contact USA. We made some changes to the way in which material is submitted to AIRS. And if you can remember way back, it was binders, flash drives, and now we have an electronic web-based submission using Google Drive. This kind of provides a private folder for applicants. So again, just efficiencies that we see that we can incorporate into accreditation. Next slide. Now I wanted to now that we have a baseline of accreditation, I wanted to move into some of the benefits to the INR provider, and no better than to hear from organizations that have gone through the process. So I've identified a couple themes that we've heard from applicants. On this screen is quality assurance and training prep and organization. So really these couple applicants found that going through the accreditation process really helps to highlight the quality assurance aspect of our work. It's not uncommon to kind of get head down in the busyness and the details of our work, but accreditation has highlighted the need to take a step back and look at our quality of our processes and our service delivery as well. This organization says they're a higher quality service because of participating in the accreditation process. And then the next, and I like the beginning of this. Oh, I'm sorry, Kira, if you can go back one slide. The next comment is just do it. The benefits far outweigh the time invested. So having everything in place is an ease for training, but also a great way to incorporate and engage other team members to really, put your best foot forward. Thank you. Next slide. The other feedback that we received was kind of along the same lines, but just to have a pause to evaluate what you're doing, your operations. So when you're answering these questions and putting all of your material together, it is a great opportunity to, again, just take that pause to say, do we have everything? Are the scenarios that we're not accounting for that we need to put into process and formalize? The next quote here in blue is I think highlighting the pride. So it says AIRS accreditation gave our staff and our board a feeling of pride and accomplishment for the process, and the process resulted in better service to the communities that we serve. And in the end, that's what we're all about, right? Is improving our processes, improving the services that we deliver to those we serve. Next slide. So there's a few other benefits that I'd be remiss to leave out. Some we've already kind of talked about, but just to highlight, So benefits that we've heard from the field of going through accreditation is it reinforces the work that the INR service is doing, again, prompting to formalize and organize processes. It provides an opportunity to improve, refine your practices, which enhance transparency, accountability, and organization's capabilities. And third on there, promote staff engagement and communication across the organization, demonstrating to all staff that there's that commitment and demonstration of commitment to quality. I really appreciate this quote from an applicant that had been through the program. It was an anonymous quote, but it says, I've been through other kinds of accreditation through different agencies and always felt that they were out to find things that were wrong. But going through AIRS accreditation, it felt different to me, more like let's work together to improve on our service. This applicant said they love the process, thanking AIRS for everything that they do to improve or to help facilitate, improvement between INR. And just, Amy's on the webinar, and huge kudos. We see that in surveys of just the amount of support that's given to applicants as they walk through the process. Next slide. Lastly, I mentioned we wanted to review the benefits to external partners. One is kind of objective evidence, right? That the INR service is adhering to quality, to national standards. Part of the standards and part of accreditation is community involvement, organizational effectiveness. So achieving accreditation, again, gives that objective evidence that the INR service is doing their best. Again, commitment externally to meeting the highest standards in the field, and maybe pushing others to also be meeting those high standards. The third is increased credibility in the eyes of the public. Again, kind of having that objective view. Some applicants have also found that having accreditation, having that kind of objective view, helps better position them in funding applications or foundation grants, and even in kind of this INR navigation, social determinants of health, kind of this kind of emerging field. Accreditation kind of helps the applicants rise to the top. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Molly to kind of walk us through readiness for accreditation.
So I apologize. I think I may have had these in the wrong order and had the most, not the most recent one that you gave me. So what I have next is about certification. Is that you as well?
Yeah, no, that you've got the right order.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Was worried. All right. Keep going.
Okay. Can you
Oh,
go back a slide?
Go back, Yara. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So hi, everyone. My name's Molly Black, and I'm the trainer at United Way of Greater Cleveland's 211 HelpLink. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the different staff certifications and what the benefit is to doing that, and just some tips on achieving and maintaining those certifications. And in case you're wondering what makes me an expert on this is I've got 22 years of experience in the INR field. I have all 3 of the professional credentials that are offered by AIRS, and I've helped over 50 staff members in Cleveland to either obtain and also to maintain their certifications. Next slide. Okay, so the next few slides are some information or the descriptions of each of the certifications that are available. So first we have the certification for community for community resource specialists. This is designed for practitioners who work directly with clients, whether on the phone or in person, and provide mediated INR that is establishing rapport, conducting an assessment, providing an informed choice of referrals, engaging in follow-up, and being capable of providing advocacy or crisis intervention if needed. Candidates must follow AIR's ethical principles. Next slide. Okay, then there's the certification for community resource specialists with a specialty in aging and disabilities. This is designed for practitioners who work directly with clients and caregivers within the aging and/or disability area and perform the same basic range of skills and tasks as a comprehensive INR specialist, but who also have a special depth of knowledge related to their core client group. Candidates must follow AIR's ethical principles. Next slide. Okay, and then the third certification that's available. Oh, can you go back one? Sorry.
Oh my goodness, it's getting all clicky and I'm like, is this the right one?
Okay,
Are we in
yep.
the right place?
Yep,
Okay, cool.
we're right on track. Okay, so then we've got the certification for community resource specialist database curators. This is designed for practitioners who maintain databases of resources for the communities that they serve and have expertise in the gathering, organizing, indexing, and dissemination of information about programs, services, and the organizations that provide them. Candidates must follow AIR's ethical principles. And these descriptions are all, you'll find them all on the AIR's website. Next slide. So why does it matter if your staff are certified? Being certified helps distinguish your team members as credentialed professionals in the field of information and referral. Achieving certification can help your staff to feel accomplished. Having a certification can help your team members show that they are proud of having a career in the field of information and referral. And some funders now require that staff are either certified or working towards their certification. Next slide. Okay. Community resource specialists are professionals. They often have either education or experience in the field of health and human services. They have the ability to think outside the box and troubleshoot complex situations. They're able to de-escalate when a client is angry or in a crisis. They have to be able to express empathy and understanding even when a client is difficult to connect with. And they must be comfortable with technology and be able to navigate and properly utilize a complex community resource database, a telephony system, and in some cases, a chat or text platform. And this applies also to those who work in the field of aging and disabilities. However, for the CRSAD certification, those folks have education, knowledge, and experience with helping older adults and persons with disabilities and their loved ones and caregivers. Next slide. Database curators are professionals. They often have education or experience in either health and human services or library science. They're able to capture information about an organization, break it down conceptually, and then reorganize it into an entry or series of entries that accurately reflect the organization's structure and services. They have a thorough understanding of the AIR's InfoLine taxonomy of human services in order to appropriately index database records. They have a strong attention to detail. They're able to maintain ongoing professional relationships with many agencies, and they have the ability to work quickly, especially in times of disaster. As we all know from the past year and a half, information and protocol can change very rapidly. Next slide. So in summary of my last few slides, community resource specialists and database curators are professionals. Community resource specialists are not just operators or customer service reps, and database curators are not just data entry clerks. It can be really disheartening for information and referral professionals to be referred to as such. Distinguishing oneself with a professional credential can help prevent this misrepresentation from happening. Okay, next slide. So where do we begin? And we're going to begin right at the beginning. So having a top-notch training curriculum in place will help with making certification a breeze. All new hires should thoroughly read the AIRS training manual, and either the trainer or the manager should discuss each section to ensure that the trainee understands the material. That training manual, the AIRS training manual, provides a lot of background information, and it covers why we do things certain ways, and understanding why we do things certain ways can really help with ensuring compliance, both to the AIRS standards and also to your agency standards. Okay, next slide. Okay, so what do we do next? So next step, you've got your training curriculum all mapped out, and you're happy that that you're covering all of the important relevant things. So next step is to review your quality assurance program. So you want to make sure that your metrics are in line with the AIRS standards. You also want to make sure that your metrics are very clearly defined. And when doing a quality assurance review of either a community resource specialist or a data curator, you want to make sure that you're giving clear and specific feedback when they miss the mark on certain metrics, and reference the AIRS training manual whenever it would apply. Okay, next slide. So I found this incredibly helpful, just for myself and my own experiences. Getting organized is just a crucial part of the process, and I'm going to talk about organization within a few of the upcoming slides. I recommend designating someone in your organization to keep track of all of your staff's credentials. At minimum, you're going to want to keep name, data hire, highest level of education attained, the date that they're eligible for, that new staff are eligible for the certification exam, and for those that are already certified, the date that they became certified and the date that their certification expires. So at 211 HelpLink in Greater Cleveland, it's the trainer, or me, that that keeps track of all of this information. However, if you don't have a designated trainer at your organization, certainly either a manager or even an administrative assistant would be a good person to do this for you. I keep all this information in an Excel sheet, and I frequently reference it every time that we apply for any kind of grant. I'm pulling it out and using some of the data in that Excel sheet with applying for different grants. And calendar reminders are totally your friend. I always set a calendar reminder for myself 2 months prior to either a team member becoming eligible for certification, or 2 months prior to when their certification is set to expire. And that just gives me plenty of time to just to get all of my ducks in a row and make sure that I set aside some time on my calendar to work on the applications. Next slide. So when can your staff sit for the certification exam? To take the exam, you require at least 1 year of employment in INR for applicants with a bachelor's degree or higher, 2 years of employment in INR for applicants with an associate's, 3 years for those with a high school diploma or GED, and 4 years for those with no educational qualifications. Next slide. Okay. I recommend designating one person on your team to handle filling out and keeping copies of all of the certification applications and recertification applications. This was something I've just learning from experience. There was a time when each individual team member was responsible for their own application, and there was a whole lot of going back and forth, and people asking, oh, what's our heirs member ID, or how's this going to be paid for, or can I have a company credit card number to do this? So having just one person filling it all out just helps for everyone, really streamlines the process and makes it much easier. Next slide. Okay, so the exam. Exams are all online now, and each exam comprises 100 4-part multiple choice questions. Candidates have 2 hours and 10 minutes to complete the exam, which I need to find out, who do I talk to about getting that changed to 2 hours and 11 minutes, because that just obviously makes way more sense. But at any rate, you can either take the exam in person, or you can take the exam using an online proctor. If you are looking for places that you can go in person, you want to go to the AIRS website. If you choose to use an online proctor, the service that AIRS uses is called ProctorU. ProctorU charges a $25 fee for the online proctoring, and then this is on top of the fee that AIRS charges to sit for the exam. At United Way of Greater Cleveland, we've been exclusively using ProctorU, the ProctorU option, for the last few years. I would recommend practicing logging into the ProctorU site at least a day or a few days before the staff member's exam. And I would also recommend logging in about a half hour before the exam is scheduled to begin, just to ensure that you don't have any sort of technical difficulties, because you don't want to have to be put in a position where you have to reschedule. Okay, next slide. Oh, you're already there. If you have a solid training and quality assurance programs, your staff should not have much studying to do to prepare for the exam. I generally recommend for our team members to review the quiz questions at the end of each chapter of the AIRS manual. And then if they are struggling with any of the questions or any of the sections, then I will set aside some one-on-one time with them prior to the exam to review the chapter. Practice tests are available through AIRS for a $12 administrative fee. You can find out more about that on the AIRS website. I have not used the practice tests before with our team here in Cleveland. But if your agency is new to getting staff certified, or if you have a staff member who's particularly anxious, then you might find that practice test to be helpful.
Hey, Molly, I just wanted to
mhm.
remind you really quick, we have just about a minute more before we need to move to Josh.
Okay, I only have one more slide. And then just don't overthink the questions, go with your gut. And you've already been, anybody that's sitting for the exam has already been in their position for at least a year. So just trust your professional judgment. And then next slide. Okay, so maintaining credentials. So you have to apply for recertification every 2 years and submit a form that details 10 documented hours of INR training and professional development. Make sure that you are offering training opportunities to your staff on a regular basis so that you're not scrambling at the last minute. Have a designated person to keep track of all completed trainings for your staff. Training can be done in-house. If you don't have a designated trainer, then perhaps you've got another team member with expertise in certain areas that they can share with the rest of your team. And also, don't forget that you can utilize training opportunities offered by AIRS. And as you're all aware, since you're all here, training opportunity, AIRS offers periodic live webinars, such as this one, as well as a library of online training courses, and of course, opportunities at the AIRS conference.
We cannot thank Molly and Jenny enough. You see their information. It went pretty quickly, but this is recorded, so you can go back and look at it anytime you want.
It is also on their profiles and on their information when you pull
I
up
highly
on their handout.
suggest that you look around the AIRS website, the Learn. It's so interesting. There's so much on there. And what I'll tell you is, as you can hear from both Molly and Jenny, the AIRS team is there willing to help. And if it's somewhere else, get a hold of someone in the network. We love to talk to each other, and we love to work together. And on that note, our premiere, this is what I've been sitting on pins and needles. Josh, I'm so excited. As you know, 211 runs through my veins, and this is like on top of accreditation, because that's so cool too. We get to hear some cool stuff today. So go ahead, Josh.
Thank you so much. And I think I'm sharing the right screen. So thank you so much for allowing me to share a couple slides today about the public service announcement and advertising campaign that's coming up. One thing that I wanted to note is that I got to validate and endorse everything Jenny and Molly just shared. I remember taking my my certification test. And it's a treasured certificate that was on my wall for a very long time. I get so many requests from our national leaders about training and accreditation, and I love to lean in and say, yeah, of course we do that. So this is fantastic stuff, and I just want to validate everything that they had to say. So without further ado, the 211 public service announcement, or the public service campaign. I don't know if we could, raise hands or put in the chat how many times, and it's a competition of how many times you have been told, well, yeah, 211 is like the best kept secret. Or how many times you've walked into a meeting with an elected official or a business leader, or just with your mother. And they're like, what is 211 again? What do you do? And so we are awesome and we are amazing. And so one effort around this is to increase the awareness of the amazing work that we do. So I have a special sneak peek and preview today of the public service announcement the public service advertising campaign. And I'm going to share just a quick context before we show that. The group that put this together is a creative studio called Walton Isaacson. They were co-founded by Magic Johnson, and they did a lot of research about 211, and this is their main message that they came up with. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you get us. You really get us. And I love the concept that 211 is this trusted guide or a guide to help people find services. And it's definitely part of our evolution and being more of a guide and a navigator, just instead of an operator, like Molly and Jenny explained earlier. So I love this message that they came up with. Walton Isaacson, just so you know, and this is kind of where I get excited, is the same creative studio that created the Black Panther and Lexus Super Bowl ad that ran a couple years ago. So yeah, their clients are Lexus and 211. Just want you to like remember that in your brains, that Lexus and 211, Black Panther, Toyota, Amazon, Spalding, some of these other very large national brands, and 211. That's how cool we are. And so Walton Isaacson donated all the media work for this. It's an animated PSA, and because they didn't want to shoot any or film any live coverage during COVID, but it's an animated PSA, and they have some great clients, and this is the message they came up with. So let me do a switch share of my screen, and without further ado, show you the television spot, and then I'm going to jump into the radio spot. This, keep in mind, is just a 60-second spot that was designed for us. And then I'll talk about what some of the other spots are and talk about what kind of where it's going to play and some of those things. We're really short on time, so I don't want to go too deep into that. So I'll give you some other tips. But here it is, drum roll. Now, I got to tell you, we've shared a couple tweaks of this in some other webinars in the last couple weeks, but this is the final one that was approved. I think it was either early yesterday morning. I talked to these groups every single week for the last 9 months. And these past 2 weeks, we've been talking to them probably 2 or 3 times a day. And this is the final version. So you all get to see it first.
When times get dark, we can't see the help that's all around us. When you don't know where to turn, let 211 be your guiding light.
How can I help you?
Our guides are ready to connect you with the help you need. For help with food, healthcare, mental health, and other resources. Call 211 or visit 211.org. 211. Get connected, get help.
Okay, I think I could watch that over and over and just cry every single time. I love that, and I love the representation and how they were able to capture us as a network and the work that we do. I'm going to share the Spanish radio version. It's just a 30-second Spanish spot. And I'm sharing Spanish because I think I want everybody to know of the diversity of our network. We're doing it, running the ads in both English and Spanish. The television, that 60-second spot, will also be available in 15 and 30-second spots and in English and Spanish. And this is just the Spanish version of the radio. So I'm going to play that even if you don't understand it all in Spanish. I think it's very important that we we hear it. So.
En tiempos de oscuridad, no podemos ver la ayuda que nos rodea. Quizás no sabes cómo pagarás la renta o perdiste tu trabajo. Cuando no sepas a dónde ir, deja que el 211 sea la luz que te guía. Estamos listos para conectarte con la ayuda que necesitas.
211, ¿cómo puedo ayudarte?
Llama al 211 o visita 211.org. 211. Conéctate. Consigue ayuda. Un mensaje de United Way y el Ad Council.
All right. I could not be happier about how those things turned out. We have provided on the 211 Toolkit site a longer webinar where you can see all this. Yesterday in the AIRS Networker, we also shared information about a webinar that will be on July 9th, where you can access all of these assets and they will be made available to our network for sharing. And then on July 14th, it will go public. We have some influencers that we're getting. Josh Dixon, who is a former gymnast, is an Instagram influencer, and we have a couple others lined up that will also be kind of just amplifying the message. We are very aware, and I want to acknowledge that we know that awareness leads to call volume. And so we want to make sure you have the resources, and we put some tips on there. But if you need help, if you're worried about surge, we've got some solutions and some ideas, as well as some volunteers that are willing to help. So don't hesitate to reach out. But we also know that this awareness and heightened awareness positions you as a visible leader in our community and the service delivery system that we do. And it's a rightfully positioning. That's where we belong. And that's why I'm so excited about this as well. And so I'm just thrilled to announce that we've got bus ads and billboard ads and a whole bunch of digital ads where it goes through digital, but those will be available for a longer preview on July 9th. So Sarah, back to you.
Josh, this is so exciting, and the work that Ad Council has done, but certainly your team is just formidable. So thank you for representing us so well as a network. And Kiara, let's head over to you for some AIRS updates.
I feel a little bit like we're in like a newscast and we're like, Josh is like, back to you, Sarah. And you're like, Sarah, over to you. Sarah's like, over to you, Kiara. Behind me, you'll see that we have the air coming in. Yeah, okay. Just really quick, I know we only have a couple of minutes, but we are trying to take things a little lighter this summer. We do have a few great things coming up during this month, including 2 webinars. The first one will be next week on July 6th, and it is a presentation by our new AIRS member, the Identity Theft Resource Center. And we're thrilled to have them come and talk about identity theft, and also when it's appropriate for you and your teams to make a referral to their team in order to help people. And then on July 14th, we are actually having a webinar to commemorate the signing of the ADA, which is the Americans with Disabilities Act. And also with that, we will be launching a new course about serving people with disabilities. So we're really excited for those 3 things. And there's actually some information coming out on that later today. So other things that I want to make sure everybody has on there, takes a note of, is that our fall conference will be October 12th, 13th, and 14th. It is frontline focused, and but also for those who are supervisors of those who are providing direct services. We will be focused on service delivery, database curation, and then also personal and professional development. In conjunction with that, we actually will also be having a DEI symposium that will be the week before, just to allow for Canadian Thanksgiving, and it's going to be amazing. Absolutely amazing. And you're going to hear more about that. So those are the things I want you to keep in mind.
Well, and I hope what everyone's hearing is we want you to stay connected. So whether that's, AIRS webinars, that's the toolkits for 211 UWW, whatever it is, stay connected. I hope that we will see you on our next webinar, which is September 2nd. We're going to focus on benchmarks, including guest speakers from the County Health Rankings team at the University of Wisconsin. Guys, a special huge thanks to Molly and Jenny Obviously just awesome folks. Kiara and Amy at AIRS, the whole AIRS team, we obviously have told you there's no way we would just not be able to do this. United Way Worldwide, Josh, you know, we just love you. And I see that Juanita's on the webinar. So, you know, if y'all know Juanita, huge thanks to all that she does as well. I hope to see you guys in September on our next webinar, but between then and now, on behalf of the entire National 211 Steering Committee, thank you for your time. Thank you for your dedication to people in need. Enjoy the rest of your day, and prayers for you and your family to have a safe Independence Day. Bye.